Welcome into New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green, and we have some good news for New York Knicks fans. The New York Knicks are re-signing Mitchell Robinson in NBA free agency. That's what we're going to start today's show with. But there's also some Donovan Mitchell trade rumors out there, and supposedly the Miami Heat have made an offer for Donovan Mitchell, so we'll talk about that later. But first, let's start with Money Mitchell Robinson. A Woj bomb early this morning. He said free agent center Mitchell Robinson has agreed on a new 4-year, $60 million contract to stay with the New York Knicks. His agent tells whatever those guys' names are. We don't really care. It's just good because Mitchell Robinson is back. This needed to happen. This is the summer the Knicks, in my opinion, have to start making moves because you knew you had to re-sign Mitchell Robinson. That's $15 million annually you're going to have to be paying him. And then you're going to have to give R.J. Barrett a contract extension very soon. We're seeing a lot of people that came out in his draft class start to secure these $200 million bags. I'm not sure I would max out R.J., but I'd do everything to make sure he's with the New York Knicks for the next 5 years. So that's where your salary cap's going. Now's the time to rebuild and retool the roster, and getting Mitchell Robinson was a great move by Leon Rose. I like it. I'm ready to see number 23 back patrolling the blue paint and MSG. But I want all Knicks fans watching this show to let me know how you feel about Mitchell Robinson re-signing with the New York Knicks for 4 years and $60 million. Give me your one-word reaction in the comment section right now. My one word is needed. This needed to happen. It was really something that we could not afford to lose was Mitchell Robinson in NBA free agency. Because when you think about the construct of this team, I like Jericho Sims, but he's not ready to be a 20 to 25 minute per night guy. I like Isaiah Hartenstein, but he's not ready to be a full-time starting center. And Mitchell Robinson provides the Knicks with shot blocking, rebounding, and one of the highest field goal percentages in the NBA. We know that he's an animal in the paint. He can contest shots from all over the court. We've seen him block numerous three-pointers throughout his NBA career. 7'1", 7'2". He can really do it all. This past year, 8.5 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, almost 2 blocks. One thing I want to see Mitchell Robinson do, though, is become more efficient and more consistent. Not efficient, consistent is what I want to see. I want to see that happen. I want to see him be more consistent. I want to see him just be more in general. On the offensive side of the court, we've seen in the offseason him shoot three-pointers. I don't want to see that, but I want to see him expand his range from just outside the constricted area. I think he can be more than just an alley-oop or dunker spot threat on offense, because in the fourth quarter, that's tough. I like the growth that Mitchell has showed through his NBA career. Early in his NBA career, he was a guy that fouled out a lot. He was a guy that tried to block every single shot. That's why in 66 games his rookie year, where he played just 20.5 minutes per night, he had 2.5 blocks. But that also got him into a lot of foul trouble. Then he got better his sophomore year. This past year, I think, was his most complete year in the NBA, and he played the most games, 72 games. Being injured has been a problem for Mitchell Robinson. And if you can get 70 to 65 plus games out of him every single year, this contract will be worth every single penny. I just want him to see him be more consistent is the word I was looking for earlier. Because we've seen him go toe-to-toe with some of the best centers in the NBA and give them the absolute business. He dominated DeAndre Ayton every single time they played the Suns. He plays his best in big games. I just want to see big game Mitchell Robinson for all 82 games of the New York Knicks season. I love his potential. I love how charismatic and joking of a person he is. He keeps the energy light, and the dude just loves to play basketball, and I'm excited to see him doing that back in Madison Square Garden for at least the next 4 years. But this is why you subscribe to New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports, because when news comes out, we get in the lab, get in the studio, and start making a video. Shout out to my guy Matthew Peterson and Patrick Seatman. They helped me cook up this show as I was driving into work, because once that Woj bomb dropped about Mitchell Robinson, we got to cooking up a video. When news happens, when rumors break, we get you guys a video as soon as possible. So go down right now and hit that big red button. Help New York Knicks Now get to 8,000 subscribers. If you're thinking, you know what, $15 million for Mitchell Robinson might be a little bit too much money, let's take a look at the highest paid centers back in the 2021 season prior to free agency. Rudy Gobert had held the number 1 spot at $35 million, and then at the 10th spot, it was Steven Adams. I'm not sure Mitchell Robinson falls in this bracket of how good these players are. I take Adams, Turner, and all of them ahead of him, but this is where he falls in, and he's going to fall in right at about the 11th or 12th highest paid center in the NBA, and I think that's right where he needs to be. I think Valanciunas, Brook Lopez, and Yusuf Nurkic are all players that he's better than. But he's not as good as those top 10 guys. Rashawn Holmes last year got 10.3. DeAndre Ayton's about to secure the bag because he's a restricted free agent. But I like what the Knicks did by getting him back on a reasonable deal. You didn't pay him big-time dollars because he hasn't proved yet that he's a 82-game big-time player. Can he be? 100%. We love Mitchell Robinson. We love the homegrown talent. Him being the second-round pick and kind of this cool story to follow. And now he secures $60 million after being on the minimum contract through the first 4 years of his career. I'm hyped to see Mitchell Robinson back, and I want to gauge, how you guys are feeling about it. So grade the signing of Mitchell Robinson, or the re-signing of him just coming back with the Knicks. 4 years, $60 million, still just 24 years old. I think he's going to continue to get better every single night. But let me know how you're feeling. Grade the signing A, B, C, D, or F. I give it an A-. It was a great move by Leon Rose. The only reason I have a minus there is because I wish it was for a little bit less money. But at the end of the day, you got to spend money to make money, and Mitchell Robinson is going to help this team make money this upcoming season. A potential starting 5 lineup of Brunson, Fournier, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson, I think, is what we're looking at. I have some concerns about the Brunson and Fournier backcourt duo. I don't think that's an elite defensive duo by any means, but I like how we have Mitchell Robinson patrolling the paint. Maybe you start Quentin Grimes and you bring Fournier off the bench, or maybe you make a trade for someone else, because the Donovan Mitchell trade rumors are heating up right following Kevin Durant requesting a trade just yesterday. The NBA offseason is in full swing, and what do you know? The Knicks are being linked to Donovan Mitchell once again. All these rumors are coming from Greg Salivander. He's a beat reporter for the Miami Heat, and he said the Miami Heat have submitted a trade offer for Donovan Mitchell. And that's big-time news, because if that's true, which I'm going to take it as it because he's a beat reporter for the Heat, he's tapped in, this means that Leon Rose has to go out and get his guy right now. We know the Knicks have been linked to him. Donovan Mitchell, he loves New York. He's always hanging out in New York. He's been hanging out with Emmanuel Quickly. He was a CAA client at one point. The agency that Leon Rose once owned. His dad works for the New York Mets. He's from the Northeast area. He loves New York. It's time to go out and get him. And Eric Walden, who covers the Utah Jazz, I think had a really interesting tweet yesterday. He said it was an interesting day for Donovan Mitchell because his best friend, Eric Pascal, was not giving a qualified offer. And then his protege, Trent Forsett, was also not given a qualifying offer. And now his friend Royce O'Neal was traded away for a first-round pick. Look, if they're clearing the book so they can take back multiple players in a deal for Donovan Mitchell, that would make some sense. But to trade all of his friends and to not bring him back when you already know he's upset with Rudy Gobert, he said he might request a trade right after they lost in the playoffs. This is going to be interesting to follow, and I think it might happen sooner than we all are thinking. But let's go back and look at the DeJounte Murray trade to kind of, compare and contrast what it would cost to go out and land Donovan Mitchell in a trade. The Hawks, they got DeJounte Murray, but they had to give up 3 future first-round picks. 2 of those were unprotected, which means if it ends up in the top 5, the Hawks, they're not going to keep that pick. They also gave up a 2023 first-round pick that's lottery protected, that comes from the Charlotte Hornets, that was once owned by the New York Knicks, that was traded by the Knicks to the Hawks for Cam Reddish. So you give up Danilo Gallinari, which was essentially just a salary cap match because he's getting released by the San Antonio Spurs. So 3 future first-round picks and a first-round pick swap. So 3 and a pick swap. So for Donovan Mitchell, do we think he's better than DeJounte Murray? I think he is, but I think it's a good conversation to have. So let's start the trade ideas with at least 3 future first-round picks. Because if that's what it took to get DeJounte Murray, I think that's what it's going to take to get Donovan Mitchell. And then you add Julius Randle to match the salary, and then you sweeten it up with Cam Reddish and Quentin Grimes. Is that enough to make Utah Jazz bite? I don't know, but I think it's a good, solid starting offer. You can start the negotiations here. I would hate to give up Emmanuel Quickly. I would hate to give up Obi Toppin. But if I had to, to go and get Donovan Mitchell, I'd have to think about it for a very long time, and I think I might say yes, and that might upset some people. But I'll ask you, would you make this trade if you were Leon Rose? You get the Spider, Donovan Mitchell to New York, but you got to give up some good assets and some future first-round picks. You give up Julius Randle, Cam Reddish, Quentin Grimes, 3 future first-round picks. Some of those are probably going to have to be unprotected. Let me know what you think. Type A for you would accept this deal, or D if you would decline it. You got to go in all in this summer, right now for Donovan Mitchell, because you can't just keep letting stars force their way out of their current situations and not making a move. The Knicks right now have 11 future first-round picks over the next 7 years. They have 7 over the next 3 years. And in that 7-year stretch, 8 of them are tradable. If you want to go out and get a guy, you can do so, Leon Rose. You just have to go out and do it. And why not go get Donovan Mitchell, one of the most exciting players in the NBA. This past season, averaged 25.5 points per game. Slight work. 26.5 the year before. 24 before that. 24 before that. Donovan Mitchell is a walking bucket, and he's efficient as well. 45% from the field pretty much throughout his whole career, and about 35 to 38% from 3. Donovan Mitchell's a primetime player, and players like that are meant to play in Madison Square Garden and for the New York Knicks. He's tied to the Knicks. He's tied to Leon Rose. He's tied to the area. He loves and he talks about often what it's like to play in Madison Square Garden, where his family can come and watch him. So make it happen. Leon, the time is now. Go get Donovan Mitchell. You already secured Jalen Brunson. Because let's be honest, as Knicks fans, Jalen Brunson and Isaiah Hartenstein is not two big enough moves to make this a big offseason and get the Knicks back in contention and to compete in the East. Donovan Mitchell, it damn sure would.